Okay, thanks for tuning into the Real Guy Podcast, and we are doing the Philosophy of Fishing series. Today I got Steven Busacca. You guys all know Steven. He's been on the podcast. He's my number one guy. Love having him sit next to me doing the podcast. We're always getting to something good. Steve, thanks for being here today.
Of course, man. Always a pleasure to be on.
How do you think the series is going so far?
Better than I could have hoped.
You liking it?
This has been an absolute blast. I mean, mind you, you and I, we've been going on a little over a year now that we've been doing all kind. We did Triple Live, and then we started doing the podcast. But this series now, this is the way. This feels right.
Yeah, you liking it? The shorter. You like it just because it's like a shorter episode and more.
I like the short. Yeah, I like because it's shorter, but because I feel like we have more energy when we do these now. Because the problem is when you do a podcast and you do it for we'll do it for an hour or so.
Right.
And I've noticed that as the episode goes on, we start losing our energy. And I feel like sometimes you can hear it in our voices.
You lose your energy.
Sometimes I do.
No, I've seen it when we're doing it. But
yeah,
when you sit down for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then, of course, the weather's been getting warmer and warmer, and we're out in the garage, and blah, blah, blah. Plus, you're a millennial.
Oh, guy. I regret the day I ever taught you that term.
What do you mean taught me the term?
I taught you it, just like how you taught me to call Carl Ball.
You didn't teach me the term. I think
I learned you something, Jeff.
We started using the term and practicing, the use of the term.
And then you adopted it.
I did a recording with Jake Wood and his friend Garrett. I don't know if you met those guys, but they went to the University of Miami. And I knew their dad and I knew their granddaddy before that. And these guys are big into fly fishing. We went out last night. But anyway, I sat down with them two, and they're like 21 years old.
So they're younger than me.
Yeah. And we got into the millennial thing. Oh. And I asked them straight up, I go, do you think millennials are soft? Because, a lot of the older generation like ours think that millennials are soft. And they thought for sure that millennials are soft.
Oh, 100%. And I'm a millennial, and I'll even say 100% my generation is as soft as can be. It's pathetic. Let me just give you a quick example of my generation being soft.
Okay.
I've seen so many people fish for snook. And mind you, we're talking small snook.
Right.
Maybe not even 20 inches. And they're always saying, I got to wear my gloves when I go to lip it. I'm just like, are you serious? Jeff, even when I catch the big ones, I grab that son of a gun by his freaking, just hold on tight. And they're like, oh, but it's gonna scratch me. I might rip some of the skin off, and I might bleed a little bit. Dude.
So you're not wearing the gloves?
I don't wear the gloves. That's not how I was taught.
So you're a little bit on the more macho side for you millennials?
I'd like to think when it comes to that, I am.
See, I think the millennials think that the gloves and the hat and the glasses and the buff and all that is just the way you're supposed to look when you're fishing.
No, well, now let me tell you this. I will wear a buff depending on what time I go out.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your generation or the millennial generation. Like they think there's a fishing look.
Yeah, it's part of the style to fish. Dude, I've gone out fishing in a freaking old tank top, basketball shorts, bare feet. It just depends. But there's not so much a style when you fish. I don't know. That's just what I think.
I don't know what's going through your kids' mind. I'm trying to get the millennial side of this whole thing. I'm not trying to be like the old fart that looks down and doesn't embrace and doesn't understand or not willing to, I'm not rejecting it.
No. But let me tell you something about my generation, the millennials, that I've noticed. Oh, Jesus.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to learn you something today, Jeff. I'm going to school you a little bit. Let me tell you another reason why my generation, this goes back to when they want to wear gloves when they handle a fish. The men of my generation all of a sudden are into this whole keeping their hands really soft and smooth.
Oh, Jesus.
You have no idea how uncomfortable it makes me.
What do you mean they're into it?
They're like, I shake all these guys' hands, and their hands are smoother than a woman's hands. That's like a new thing with my generation.
And they want them to be that way.
They want them to be that way.
Holy sugar.
I couldn't imagine how these guys would react if they saw Carl Ball's hands.
Like, would they get offended if, like, I gave them a decent handshake and, like, my callus, like, scraped their fine skin, and would that bother them?
It might.
Would they look down upon me because...
And that's another thing you brought up, too, of how you say, you give them a nice, firm handshake. Whenever I shake somebody's hand, you do... I mean, you got to, crush their hand, but you do a nice, decent, firm handshake. They're almost afraid to do a firm handshake, almost as if they're afraid that they might... They
might get a blemish from it?
That was exactly the word I was thinking, too. They might get a blemish on their hand.
So how does like the soft-handed millennial dude, like, how do they take care of, like, a hangnail or something? Do they just bite it off like normal, or do they file it off?
I think they file it off. I mean, even though I'm a millennial, I'm into, listen, if I got a hangnail, just bite the son of a gun off.
All right, so the consensus is the millennials are soft, and so are their hands.
Yes. I feel like that needs to be like a new, they need to make a poster or something of that.
A meme. The meme guys will run with that one.
A meme or like a bumper sticker. The millennials are soft and so are their hands.
That's pretty good.
That's an idea. We'll make a bumper sticker. If anybody tries to steal that idea, just make sure you heard it here. You heard it first on the Real Guy Podcast.
Listen, dude, we were supposed to be talking about fishing philosophies. Now you sorry-ass millennials with your hands.
I know, but you know what?
Was that condescending?
No.
Yes, it was.
A little bit, maybe. I don't take it personal. But you know what? But that's the beauty of our podcast.
I don't know. I don't think I've been pissing people off enough on the podcast.
You don't think so?
Am I?
I haven't heard anybody complain.
See, like on YouTube, I knew I was pissing off 50% of the people.
Oh, you read the comments. They're hilarious. Right. But that was the best part of the videos is the comments.
People are scared. People are scared about the bad comments and the haters on social media, and I don't get it.
Yes.
Like, they're like super scared of it. Like, how can you be scared of that? These guys are a bunch of chumps, first of all. Like, yeah, you can be scared of it. There's some chump. Now, if it's Andre the Giant that's pissed off at you, yeah, maybe you might want to, worry about that a little bit. But when it's friggin' O'Gorman or somebody down there at the bridge friggin' talking shit about you because you've been getting lunkers in their faces for decades, you know what I mean? Are you fine? All right, dude. Let's talk about fishing philosophy here for a second.
Yes, I know. Let's at least do that for at least 2 minutes.
I'm a big fan of fundamentals. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because I grew up playing football and fishing and some other stuff. But in football, especially being small like me, like your basic and your fundamentals when playing that sport are key. Like, you can't do it at 160 pounds and not have perfect fundamentals. And what I mean by that is, as a cornerback, you get taught, how to backpedal, how to come off your backpedal, how to pivot, how to get to the your spots, your angles, all these different things. And that's your fundamental part of being a cornerback. Without them, you will get crushed. You can be the fastest, the strongest. You can jump the highest. But if you have poor fundamentals, poor footwork, you don't understand angles, you will get beat over and over and over again as a cornerback. And you will get beat over and over and over again as a fisherman or a hunter or a golfer or anything if you don't have basic fundamental training. And you have to have that as a backbone and a cornerstone for the sport that you're into.
You see, I find it very interesting how you bring that up because I agree with that 100% in football. Now, when I was in high school, my sport was swimming. So I was on the swim team. And I got to tell you, and for anybody that's listening that may have been a swimmer, a lot of times fundamentals with swimming go out the door. There was a guy that joined our team my junior year. It's at St. Thomas. And the guy, he knew how to swim, but he was never on a swim team before in his life. He just decided to do it.
He's just a good swimmer.
Very tall. He was very tall. And because of that, now mind you, I was nowhere near being the best swimmer, but I could hold my own. I'd been swimming for years.
Right.
This guy absolutely blew past me. Absolutely blew past me because he was so tall and long. And that was when, and I said to my coach, I said, Coach, I said, how is that even possible? And he goes, well, you got to understand. He said, with swimming, he goes, it's not like basketball or football. He goes, you see how he's built?
He's built to swim.
He's built to do it. He goes, it doesn't even, swimming, he says, is one of those rare sports. You don't have to have trained for your whole life.
But, it's not that rare, what you're saying. I mean, it's rare, to have the one dude that's a natural phenomenon that's going to be better at a sport.
Yeah.
But then he goes to the next level. And then he's competing with other dudes that have that same build and that same makeup. And that's when his basics and fundamentals come into play, when he has to compete with those dudes. Now, those dudes worked at it and have the basics and fundamental training, and they will come out on top. You know what I mean? And you see, in football, it's real simple because you will get beat for a touchdown. You will get run over. I mean, physically, you can see it. You know what I mean? But what people, I think, there's nobody there. Like, you went to St. Thomas and swam. I went to St. Thomas University, Connecticut. We had coaches and people to teach us the fundamentals and to practice and to do all that. And in fishing, you got nobody to really teach you that or tell you that you have to do that. Like, I was able to apply it, and I understand it now because I was into some good systems. So I hope people realize that, if you want to excel in fishing, there's basic fundamentals. And you know what I think? People think that it's too complex, and it's not. Like water time, we use it, we joke around as a term and everything.
But it's true.
It's true. And what water time's all about, it's about vision, being able to look at the water and see and make an analysis on how that's going to help or hurt you in today's fishing excursion. What the benefits of having a windy day is to the benefits of having a super calm day, and in the sport of fishing, there's nobody really there to teach you or to let you understand the value of your basic fundamentals. One, I think, is analyzing the situation with, having water time and being able to understand how the wind's going to help you or hurt you in different spots and different situations. But also even more simple than that is, like, I can't tell you how many people get on the boat and they want to catch a big tarpon or they want to catch a bonefish or whatever, and they haven't picked up a fishing rod in a year. You know what I mean?
The happy baiters, right?
The happy baiters, a lot of, but it's not unnormal. It's not, and they don't even realize that it's, hurting them because they're not thinking about fishing as a sport, having basic fundamentals. Like, if you're into bone fishing and you're not bone fishing, there's things you can do to make yourself a better bone fisherman.
Yeah.
Like, set up 4 or 5 gallon buckets, one at 10 yards, one at 20 yards, or one at 30 yards.
And practice casting.
Right, and practice casting like, something that's lightweight or whatever it is, if you're a fly caster or whatever, that you're going to fish for the bonefish. And do that for an hour, for a week, or 2 weeks, or every other day for a month, or once a month for the rest of your life. And you, just like shooting free throws in basketball. If you shoot those free throws every day, your percentage of success is high. If you only shoot the free throws once a year, you know how to do it. But because you didn't practice your basic fundamentals on a daily basis, you stink. Even though you know how to do it. You know what's supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
You didn't put your time into practice to master it.
Right. So you master, one, your physical ability to be able to cast with buckets, and you do that on a windy day, and then you do it on a calm day, and then you do it with the wind behind you, then you do it with the wind in front of you, then you do it with where you put one bucket underneath the truck, where maybe you got to skip it in there, and then you practice your basic fundamental casting.
Yeah.
Then you go to the boat ramp, or you go to the beach, or you go to the seawall somewhere, and you put in some water time, and you stare at the water, and you see what you can see. You see what the wind's doing to the water. And then if a mullet is swimming against the wind and there's a little different wave, a little trickle, and you realize, oh, dude, that's not a trickle. That's a mullet swimming against the wind. And then you could see that. And now the next time you go and look, you're looking for that, you find that, and you can see that. And then you look down and like all of a sudden you can like see the sheep's head or whatever on the bottom of the friggin' seawall. And you can barely make it out. And then you stare at it and you say, okay, that's what a sheep's head looks like 5 feet down in the murky water. Now you're out on the boat and you look down and you don't see the sheep's head, but you see this little light yellow color that's moving slowly, and you know that's a sheep's head because you trained yourself. You went through the basics and the fundamentals so many times
that it just comes natural.
And you can take advantage of it because it comes natural. And that's the difference of you catching that sheep's head or not. That's the difference of you seeing that bonefish or not, because you made the cast in the buckets for friggin' 3 months, and now you go fishing with carball, and you're able to see the bonefish quicker because you've been practicing and looking in the water. You've been practicing it, throwing your bait in those buckets, and now you had to perform under pressure when the bonefish is swimming up.
So, and the reason that you practice with the buckets is when Carl says, throw it 30 feet in front of you at 12 o'clock, doesn't matter what way the wind is going, you're going to be able to do that.
Right. And that's the difference between success and failure. And that's the difference between basic fundamentals and not having basic fundamentals. And that's why fishing is a sport. And it's not a hobby. Run That Dog. Great episode, dude.
Run That Dog.